Hey everyone, this is Charlie, and you are watching The Burrow. Just a really quick one for you tonight. I've been recently just sort of going through and rereading some old books that, basically that I just haven't read in a while. And one of those was Peter Benchley's Jaws. Now, when I was a kid, I really, really loved this movie, even though it was responsible for me being afraid, terrified even, of sharks when I was a little kid, and probably up until now not really, and of course that in itself doesn't really warrant a video, particularly on this channel where my thing is talking about storytelling and writing and everything like that. But it really struck me as interesting because there is a part in Jaws, multiple parts in Jaws, I speak English, where the author, Peter Benchley, chooses to use particular language and chooses to use his story to get across personal feelings, which is fine, right? That's something I want to talk about. But what ends up happening because of the feelings that he shares and the way he shares them is that it ends up pulling you out of the narrative. And it's just one of the many reasons why, in my mind, Jaws is one of those cases in which the book is nowhere near as good as the film. Maybe that's a controversial opinion. I don't really think so. But, if you love the book Jaws, tell me why down in the comments below. So, one of the many wonderful things about writing, right? Like, you can really even list all of them, is that it gives you this medium, right, and this opportunity to pursue your thoughts and sort of work them out, and it gives you the ability to do that in like a really wonderful sort of soul cleansing experience. That's why for so many people who write, it feels like if they don't write, like they don't understand things or they feel lost, right? That's why there's so many people who write who have no interest in being published or anything like that. It's about that experience of working through things, right? And to a certain extent, that is absolutely the same for me. Now, the problem that I have with Peter Benchley, and this is something I tweeted about the other day, he puts his feelings out in a way, right, in this work, particularly in the way that he feels about women and minorities, in a way that is just like, it's so obvious. And admittedly, I think Jaws was first published in the 70s or something, the 60s maybe, and so it's a reflection of the times, but that doesn't make it okay as like a modern reader for me to be like, okay, well, I'm reading this, and it doesn't help me when I read things, an example of which I'll read you here in a second, that pull me out of the story. Like, I can't sit there and be like, oh, well, this is just how it was back then. Like, it doesn't help the story for readability because it doesn't help the narrative, right? So bad writing is bad writing, I think, regardless of what time it came out of, right? So just to give you an example of the sort of thing that he likes, that he did multiple times, Peter Benchley did multiple times throughout this work. This again is from Jaws. Let's see. Police work offered security, regular hours, and the chance for some fun. Not just thumping unruly kids or collaring drunks, but solving burglaries. Trying to catch the occasional rapist, and this is the parenthetical. The summer before, a black gardener had raped 7 rich white women, not one of whom would appear in court to testify against him. And of course the sentence goes on, right? But maybe this is something that could be forgiven once, right? Be like, okay, well, does the fact that it was a black gardener add anything to the story? And of course this does sort of portray this race dynamic, which continues to today, where white women are sort of like victimized supposedly whenever they have a relationship with black men. That's not really what I want to get into, but this is something that Peter Benchley does multiple times, again, in this work, where he just takes these really cheap shots at black people, right? And again, that's a whole other thing we could get into, but the thing that I want to point out to you when you're writing is that this is an example of you sort of using writing to get the way you think about the world, to get the way you feel about things across in a very sort of bad way, right? You can, of course, I hate to say it, but as far as freedom of speech goes, I feel like I have to. You can, of course, express these same kind of ideas, but you can do it in a way that doesn't make your, like, that isn't this, right? Now, I've seen arguments sort of for Peter Benchley by saying that, you know, he wasn't a racist, he was just adding color to the story. Now, I don't know, of course, never met Peter Benchley, I don't really know anything about him. But, you know, if this is... It doesn't matter to me if his personal character, I don't care, right? We're focused on the book, but if what he was just doing was try to add a little color to the world that he was building, he did it in an entirely wrong way, right? Because he's using his narrator to put across what is essentially this racist worldview. And I feel like if he was going to add color to his world and kind of show how things were in that world, right, he'd be better off doing it through his characters. Through his characters' actions, to the way they speak and everything else like that. So, I guess not to make this too long of a point, you know, if you have an opinion or a way that you see the world, be careful about how you express it in your writing, I guess. I'm not advocating, by the way, for you to go out and be a horrible racist or a misogynist or, you know, any other type of person who brings other people down for whatever reason. But what I am saying is that you can have those kind of themes present in your work, right? Like maybe Peter Benchley wasn't a racist. He just chose to, again, demonstrate this sort of way things were in the world at that time in a really, really bad way. If you're interested in talking about race or the way things are right now, say with Islamophobia or something like that, or continued issues of sexism in the States or something like that, be careful. You know, it can be written into your story without it's seeming like preachy, right? The last thing you want to do is write a piece of text that's basically proselytizing. And two, I would say maybe, you know, be careful about stuff like this, because even if you don't mean to come across as a racist, or you're not a racist, or you're not a misogynist, or any of those other things we've already talked about, it can ruin your story if you're not careful about how you do it. So, you know, maybe this is a no-brainer, but I would say use your characters, use them in ways that they would naturally be used. But portray their speech and their discussions in a way that those characters would speak, instead of using it as like a soapbox for you to try and get a point across, right? It could be, and even if it's not an idea as venomous, as poisonous, I should say, as something like racism, if you're still using the story to soapbox about how, I don't know, it could be something really innocuous, like how cute you think Shiba Inu puppies are, it's going to take people out of the story because they're going to wonder, well, why the hell did you even bother saying that? Like, that has no bearing on the story whatsoever, right? And maybe that's what I should have said to begin with. But anyway, that's all for me tonight, guys, for this week's installment of The Burrow. I'm really looking forward to doing more of like these sort of sit down and talk to you kind of videos, kind of this more informal thing. As you see, we're not really in kind of like a set or anything like that. There's not really a lot of editing for these kind of videos. But this is something I have a lot of success with over on my main YouTube channel, and I really enjoy just sort of talking to people about these things in sort of like a more open discussion way instead of a more scripted way. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below if you feel like seeing more videos like this. I am interested too in sort of upping the amount of content that I put out on this channel each week, but I have to talk to the other half of the channel, of course. So on that note, guys, yeah, let me know what you thought about anything I've expressed here, and be sure to check out all of our other videos here in the Burrow, both from Emily and myself, and I'll see you very soon indeed. Go write something awesome.
More Twilight stuff. Oh, geez.